about 12 months ago, he and I were about to board a train in Hamburg, been doing some travelling and about to head back to his house for a short time. He said to me, okay, we've got 3 hours on this trip now. I'd like you, if you would, to please critique my leadership while we're on this trip. Like, sure, okay then, no problem. He said, beyond that, whatever I say, right at this moment I feel more empowered by you than at any other point in time, just because of that desire to know what was the effect of his ministry in my life reflected back. And many of you have done that empowerment test, and just by doing that test and inviting others to feedback on the help you've provided in their lives, you have started that process of empowerment. But of course my main focus today is on this man and his resolute conviction for the sake of the church to discover God's faithfulness and principles. And just want to affirm him and honour him now. Would you please join me?
At our conference here we heard Taylor, a 13-year-old girl, share about how the empowerment test has influenced her life.
As part of my learning journey, Counting Power, I took the empowerment and community tests, and I'd just like to show you my leadership results. Here you can see my family were the 4 participants for this survey, and empowerment is slightly higher than leadership in this, but it is fairly balanced, at least on this page. If you come to this page here, you'll see that it's not as balanced. And explanation is quite high, and I think even before the test we all knew that explanation is a big thing in my life. I explain things to everybody to the point where it can drive them crazy. So if you come over here to the Trinitarian compass, you'll see that advocating for moves and permitting mistakes are right next to each other on the liberation stack, and one is my highest and one is my lowest. So that pretty much means, my dad and I discovered, that I will advocate bold moves and I will, encourage people to take risks, and but if they make a mistake, they did. So
Ralph, I learned that you are the NCD project officer within this Diocese of Brisbane, Anglican Diocese of Brisbane here, and this is an official job. I mean, you have been installed here by the Bishop to do this ministry. Can you share about that?
Well, I've been doing it for 3 years now, and there's one more year to run. I run a project for the Anglican Diocese of Brisbane to recruit and assist and coach and help a group of parishes, significant group of parishes, to use NCD to see how it goes. And we've got now 45% of the Anglican Diocese of Brisbane of its parishes, 63 parishes enrolled, and we're moving through the process really quite well.
Is this a thing that is primarily attractive, let's say, to more evangelical-oriented churches or charismatic-oriented churches, or what about the liberals?
Well, we have all the different traditions in the Anglican Diocese of Brisbane represented, evangelical, charismatic, more liberal ones, but it's certainly been attractive, I think, in a more liberal Catholic type diocese. I think the research, the rationality of it, just the whole methodology, but it's across all the traditions.
What are the results that you can see by investing in this process?
Well, we're seeing in the progressing parishes that have done it 2 or more, we're seeing a very distinct lift of quality across all the characteristics, 7.5 points on the NCD scale. It's coming up, it's a really quite dramatic lift in quality, and we're seeing some of the fruit being reported in evaluations and in other areas. The other thing that's been very interesting is we've now identified the key issues that are holding back the development and growth of the Anglican Diocese of Brisbane. And we're starting to focus on those at a diocesan level.
What are they?
Well, first of all, the Bible. Connecting the Bible and life, connecting the Bible and experiencing God, these are the issues. So we're getting support, of course, from the Archbishop of Brisbane and the leaders to really start exploring what's going on. Several years ago, the diocese started asking parishes to tell them the number of Anglicans, adult Anglicans, involved in faith formation groups. We've only had a couple of years of data. But last year, the figures for last year had a 3,000 member jump from the previous year, from 7,000 odd to 10,000 odd. When I looked at the numbers, the actual numbers coming down the list, and identified parishes using NCD and those not using NCD, that had rises, approximately 35, I think, parishes using NCD had that the largest amount of that rise had come from parishes using NCD. So it appears that already the on-the-ground emphasis on studying the Bible and fellowship through the NCD is actually having an effect. It's a very dramatic change.
Ralph, with these experiences, I believe there are how many dioceses? 23 dioceses in
Yes,
Australia?
23 dioceses in Australia.
What is about the other dioceses? Are they encouraged by what you are doing here? Are there other attempts in a similar direction? Can you share about that?
Well, I think it is actually getting, NCD is getting some penetration in the Anglican Church of Australia. There are, Brisbane, Tasmania are using it, Bunbury and the Riverina diocese. It is done, of course, in different parishes around the country. One of the bishops who's here today at this conference, he said to me last year that the NCD in the Diocese of Brisbane has changed the language of the Diocese of Brisbane, the way we think and talk about our church. So yes, NCD, Natural Church Development, is having some impact across the nation of Australia, which is what I actually had in mind when I got involved in this 3 years ago.
At the end of a very intense and enjoyable week here in Australia, I'm now recharging my batteries before we will have next week our international team meeting here in Brisbane, in the course of which we will have to make a number of tough decisions in order to enable our ministry to move a decisive step forward.